Christian Ballard here at 93.1 WKRM and we'll send you to Rich Jet. Hey, we say good morning on this Wednesday morning, of course. Obviously, a later start to the show. I needed the rest. I really did. But we're here now, and I figured take advantage of the fact that our friend Uncle Lou doesn't do his morning show at this time on Wednesdays. He actually takes Wednesdays off. Uh, I said it'd be a perfect time. We might push the show back on like a Wednesday morning because I usually work Tuesday nights. Monday and Friday, we'll try to do better at showing up. But I slept. I'm gonna be honest. So what happened was, um, had the alarm set, it went off. But what I forgot to do was turn the sound on my phone off. I keep it off at work. I get in the car, I come home, and that's that. So bear with me. We're trying to get used to this. We are. I'm gonna drop the StreamYard link this morning. If people want to hang out and come on, that's fine. We got Octavian joining us in the comments on YouTube. We're also live on the Ballard Sports Facebook page. So, and what we're going to talk about today, SEC win totals 2024. We're not placing bets, but I don't bet when it comes to sports. But I am always curious, and I might call them out, but I never place money on it. But I might have to write some of these down and say, I'll take the over, I'll take the under. And then what we'll do after the season, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. I see you back there, TriStar. We'll get you on just 1 second. But this could be a good idea. We're going to look at SEC win totals this morning. And I could write some of these down and say whether or not I take the over or the under. And then later on, after the college football season, if I save this piece of paper plus this broadcast, we could revisit, I should say. And then my mouse is acting up. We can see how I did. TriStar, what's up, buddy?
Oh, not much. Been reading all the death threats and terroristic threats on Texas A&M's baseball coach.
That
Have
is
you?
pretty bad. I've seen that. Yeah.
And I was in Squidtard's show the other night when we won the national championship, and they had mentioned how you had a video up and it didn't have audio.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that because I had used StreamYard. I wasn't muted, but I think something got screwed up when I downloaded the video and I had uploaded it. And then I guess I had to take it down. I was pretty upset because I did a lot of work on it too.
Yeah.
So
Now, if
it
you want me
sucks
to,
when, yeah.
I was gonna say if you want me to, I'll join you on that over under because I could probably add some good points to it. Of
Yeah, for
why
sure,
I think
man.
this team could be over, why I think this team won't be under that. The,
Yeah,
the, the
and this
best
is
bet
all.
is hammer the under on Florida immediately. I think their
I
over
know
under is
that.
5.5. Hit the under. You want to talk about what
Oh,
does
I
Josh
know.
Payne say? Best bets. That's
Best
the best bet
bets.
of the year. Yes.
Yeah,
If
you'll make a ton of money if you hammer the under on Florida because they always underachieve, plus they're just not very good.
well, they're back to how they were before Spurrier.
Yeah, Sunbelt Billy. So,
We'll
in my notes, I have this. They have Bama without Saban is 9.5. CBS goes over with 10 wins. Sam Pittman's last ride, they're saying 3 wins for Sam Pittman. Um,
mm.
I say his last ride. I don't. Here's the thing about Sam Pittman. I love the guy to death. I
Oh yeah,
love.
well,
I
he's
laughed. I laugh when he says, "I'm gonna go home and crack me open a cold beer" and all this other fun
oh
stuff.
yeah, he's
But
relatable as
I
all
don't
can
think.
be.
I don't think he's the issue. I think Arkansas is just cursed. And I know that might sound
Okay,
crazy, but they've never
I can
really
easily
been.
explain it. I can easily explain this. There's a great
Yeah.
YouTube channel. I want y'all that's watching to go check out. He's a good guy. He's a TCU fan. He's a fairly new channel. I think maybe less than a year old. He's called Throwback Frog. He's a TCU fan, and he did this
Okay.
one video and it explains everything. He went back of talking about how the overwhelming, outside of a couple of exceptions, the overwhelming majority of time when you leave your conference where you have all your history and all your rivals and your recruiting base and all that stuff to chase the money, it never
Mhm.
works.
He's only
You,
got
yeah, you'll
5
make,
videos.
yeah,
Uh,
he's a fairly
And
good.
he's hit
He
a
does a
thousand. Hold on. He hit 1,000
he does
subs
some
on
really
5
good
videos.
stuff. He's really good. Like he's good.
Okay. I'll
I
subscribe to
what
him.
oh yeah, he check out that he one of his videos. Like you'll see, I think it might be his second video or third. But he talks about that going all like from Arkansas, South Carolina, when they joined the SEC in '91 to today, and he
Mm,
goes in detail about them. Like Arkansas, before they joined the SEC, was a really good program for a long time. Like they were usually it was
right.
either them or Texas in the Southwest Conference, and they left the Southwest Conference because they thought, we'll make way more money in the SEC, we'll get a better TV deal. We're heard this before, and but they were winning 10 games a year for a long time, and then
Yeah.
like. Like, do you think that they went and joined the SEC to make more money, but on the assumption, like, yeah, we'll be fine with 7, 8 wins a year? No, I mean, before they joined the SEC, this was a team equivalent to like they were the one either the number 1 or number 2 team in their conference every single year and competing for national championships every year. And you know that that's another reason why I hate all these moves because you actually end up having less good teams. It consolidates it where you have just a handful. When back then you had a lot, every conference had teams that were competing for championships. Every conference
Right.
did, and that's what I was explaining on Joey Foster's show the other night, and you know, and he talks about it. Throwback Frog does, and then you get into 2003. That's when Boston College and uh, Virginia Tech and Miami left the Big East to join the ACC. Uh, Now, Miami was always kind of a geographical isolate, kind of like Colorado, because they're way down there in South Florida. But I always
Yeah.
thought they kind of fit the ACC a little better because you're not having to travel as far and it keeps it kind of consolidated. But they've had struggles. The only and one of the few exceptions was Virginia Tech. Well, Virginia Tech already, University of Virginia, they're already in the ACC area. They already had history with Maryland. They already had history with the Carolina schools. So it wasn't like a rough transition because they were already playing those teams every year outside of their
Yeah.
Big East schedule. And and Boston College, yeah, they had those couple years with Matt Ryan, but outside of that, they weren't doing anything, and they were actually a pretty good team in the Big East.
Oh, of
Usually,
course. Yeah.
they were usually winning 8, 9 games a year, but they were competitive. They were pretty good. And then he goes into the big one in 2011, where he had Colorado, Nebraska, Texas A&M, Missouri all lead the Big 12. And you know, outside of a couple of years with Missouri, outside of really their first year with Johnny Manziel with A&M, and then look at Colorado, Nebraska. Nebraska is the textbook example of how you're a blue blood powerhouse program, have been for decades, and you go chase the money, and look what it gets you. Yeah,
Right.
you're making more money, but do you think the fans care about a TV deal?
No.
No, because they're not going to. No, nobody, no, the players, the coaches are not going to see a dime of that money. I mean, yeah, the head coaches are now getting ridiculous contracts, but those were going up anyways. Those would have went up regardless, TV contracts or not. Those were just naturally going up higher and higher. But if you notice, and then also too, you had Utah join the Pac-12, you had TCU join the Big 12. And if you notice,
Right.
TCU again was one of those exceptions to where they actually had still maintained success when they joined the Big 12 because they had a history with some of those teams. They had history with Baylor, obviously, Texas Tech, and Houston, and Texas. So they had history with those teams. So it wasn't like a rough transition. They already had history with those teams from the old Southwest Conference. And you look at as well, you know, you know, all their histories in the Big Eight and all, Oklahoma, Missouri, the Kansas schools, Colorado. Colorado people don't remember was a pretty daggone good program for a long time. They were
Yeah.
usually up there with Oklahoma, and especially in the
Did they
'90s.
not win? Did they not win a championship in the 90s?
Yep, yep. Them and Georgia Tech shared the title in 1990. And as a matter of
'Cause you
fact, they
had
actually
you
had a
had teams like Colorado, Georgia Tech, Washington. You had some good teams in the 90s.
and that's where I'm saying, like, when I talk about how I laugh when they say this team will never be good again, like when they said Tennessee will never be good again. Oh, Georgia Tech, they'll never be good. Oh, Nebraska, oh, their stuff was in the '90s. They ain't gonna be nothing. Ballot Christian. Let me ask you
Mhm.
this: when they had
Yeah.
when Nick Saban first got to Alabama in 2000 in January of '07, was the phrase not said about Alabama? Oh yeah, they won that title in '92 with Stallings, but they ain't really done nothing since the '70s. They viewed
Yeah.
Alabama as a program from back in the day, not a program of today. But they got the one coach that fixed that, and voila. Like, see, a program that's got the resources of Alabama is never going to truly just be dead. It's just they're going to have down years because they have bad ads and bad coaches. The, and the
Yeah.
problem was for a long time with Alabama was you were not even considered for the head coaching position in football unless you had some kind of Bear Bryant connection.
Huh.
You had to have either
Okay.
coached with or played for Bear Bryant. Everything okay?
Yeah, my grandmother said to call her cell phone real quick. She's trying to find it. Hold on one second.
You got to find Mama's cell phone?
You can keep talking, TriStar, if you want to. I'll
Oh,
just kinda
oh, oh,
dial it
okay.
until she finds it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, I know you're trying to find Mama's cell phone. It's okay. But
Yeah.
so one thing, for example, one program, and I get so much heat for this. I get called a closet fan of this because I say Georgia Tech is a gold mine that nobody even realizes. And people laugh at me and say, "Try. Who the hell want to go to Georgia Tech? Who you got
Right.
Georgia over there?" I'm like, no. Think about this. Where's Georgia Tech located?
Atlanta.
Right in downtown Atlanta. Like you're literally
That's the money pit right there.
exactly. You got all that money and all that. Think about this. The guy who's about to be the face of the NBA, Anthony Edwards, Ant as they call him, grew up five
Yeah.
streets down the road from Tech's campus, and Tech
Yeah.
didn't even recruit him. He went to UGA, and then you look at not just in the city, but the whole metro area. Just basically put a dot on Bobby Dodd Stadium and do a 100-mile radius circle. In that circle, you've got umpteen illion 4 and 5 star athletes in every sport: baseball, football, and basketball. I mean, think about the guy who just won the NBA title with the Celtics, Jaylen Brown. He's from Gwinnett. I know he's not from Gwinnett. I think he's from Marietta. Dansby Swanson, he's from Marietta. Uh,
Yeah.
so many great players. I mean, hell, Eric Fairburn, Fairburn, Georgia. He's an Atlanta guy. Jamal Lewis, uh, in my
Yeah.
opinion, the best running back to ever step foot at Tennessee. Would have won the Heisman '98 if he didn't get injured against Auburn. Um, he's from Atlanta. I mean, there's so much high level talent there. And then you see how they've been, and it just boggles your mind. And then I hear from all the time, well, it's the academics. Okay, well, then why is Texas doing fine then? You can't be a dummy and go to University of Texas. Like their academic standards are very high.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally call the University of Texas at Austin a public Ivy League.
Yeah.
So to say that it's academic standards, then how do you explain Notre Dame? How do you explain Michigan? How do you explain Florida? How do you explain Ohio State? I mean, hell, Auburn, you can't be a dummy and go
Florida.
to Auburn.
Right.
No, Florida's academics are actually really good.
Yeah, Auburn too. Auburn's a big engineering school.
Auburn's, yeah,
The
yeah,
university, you look,
Auburn's.
people wanna make fun at the state of Alabama and everything. Alabama and Auburn, now I'm still going to UAB, but even with engineering, but also with communications, both of those schools are
I don't
top notch in
see
the state.
how if you're going Ballard. I gotta say this. I don't see if
Okay.
you're an Alabama fan. I don't see how you get along with people at UAB because I know there's a lot of bad blood with UAB and Alabama over their football program.
Oh, yeah? I haven't
Yeah,
noticed
because
that.
well, number one, University of Alabama don't play any in-state schools. They don't play UNA. They don't play Jacksonville State. They don't play Troy. They don't play South Alabama. They don't play
I wish they
Sanford,
did, though.
UAB. They should,
Like, if
and
you're
that's one thing
Yeah.
I can say. Tennessee every year, Tennessee plays uh, one in-state school a year, whether it's like Middle
Mhm.
Tennessee State or we'll play Austin P, East Tennessee State, UT Chat. Like we're playing UT Chattanooga this year. We'll play Tennessee Martin. Uh, we always try to play one in-state school a year, and I've never understood. And Auburn's the same way. I thought Auburn played more in-state schools. I was wrong. They're the same way. I don't understand because I mean, heck, even Georgia and Georgia Tech do that. They'll play Georgia State or Kennesaw or Georgia Southern or you know play the smaller G5 FCS level in-state schools because I mean it does good. It brings money to those universities and you get a warm-up game.
Right. Yeah, you do. And you do need the warm up games, but I always complained about having like the smaller schools before like the Iron Bowl and the Egg Bowl and all these rivalries. But you need those warm up games. Speaking of warm up games, what do you say we go ahead and jump into win totals, man? You want to help me pick some win totals here on CBS Sports? Did we lose him? I don't know. Uh, let's see. Who could I bet on today? I don't gamble. I don't really gamble. I'm not Lou. I'm not Pete.
Oh, hello, hello. You still with me?
Yeah,
All right. I don't know why, but I think I hit a dead spot. So you said last thing I heard was somebody. Yeah, we need warm up games.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
I would like to see, and you probably want to see Tennessee if they're going to play smaller schools, like play the
yeah
UT
play
Martins and Chattanoogas or something.
yeah like the in-state schools.
Right.
Heck, I would not even be opposed if you're going to do that. Like, there's, D2 schools in Tennessee. There's NAIA schools. There's D3 schools. Get that,
Yeah.
let raise money for them. They
Did you
try.
know that did Did you know that Auburn used to be Alabama A&M when the Iron Bowl first started? They
Well,
used to be Alabama
them being an
A&M.
engineering school, I can kind of believe that because that probably meant like Texas A&M agricultural
How would
mechanical. So
Auburn how would Auburn view it if Alabama played Alabama A&M today? I mean, would they say we're still Alabama A&M?
no, they're not.
No,
Number
you're
one,
Auburn.
number one, Alabama A&M. If y'all's watching, if you don't know, is up in Huntsville. It's a HBCU.
Right.
You've got two that I know in terms of football teams, HBCUs in the state of Alabama. You got Alabama A&M up there in Huntsville. Then you got Alabama State down in Montgomery. Uh,
Yeah.
you've also got one. I don't think they have a football program, but was it Tuskegee? It's actually pretty much almost in Auburn.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think because I kind of looked at some of the HBCUs just see where they are. Like Tennessee, in Tennessee we've got one HBCU football program, and that's Tennessee State. Like there is a HBCU I think in Knoxville. I know there's one in Memphis, but no. Back to like I think I have you seen my conference layout how it should be, and you do an 18 playoff for that. It kind of satisfies everybody. Have I sent
Did
you
you make a
that?
video? Did you make a
No,
video on it?
no,
You send
no.
it
It
to me
was
though.
okay. Well, I'd have to
Yeah,
send it to you when I'm not driving,
I got you.
but I'll just read them off to you. So we'll start with since we're SEC guys. We'll start with the SEC. So going, I do from north to south to kind of explain it. So obviously you got Kentucky. And by the way, if you're a founding member and you're still in the conference, I'm not kicking you out because I got a lot of shit for keeping Vandy in there. So
Right.
Kentucky, Vandy, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Georgia Tech,
Mm.
Florida, Florida State. There you go.
So Florida State and Georgia Tech are in. Was there any other new teams? Let me see. So
That's it.
who
There's
did
only 12.
12 teams? You added two. That means you kicked some teams out. So
Yes, South
you don't
Carolina,
have
Arkansas.
Arkansas's out. South Carolina's out.
Yes, I've got them in another conference.
Okay.
And it's all teams that should be there.
Yeah. And is this all based on like the original SEC plus like just
Uh,
geographical type?
well, yeah, but yeah, kinda. And then I'll go over to the ACC. So from north to south, I've got Maryland, Virginia Tech, Virginia, Duke, North Carolina, NC State, Wake Forest, and you'll like this one, Appalachian State.
Oh, yeah.
Then Clemson, South Carolina, UCF, Miami.
I like it. I really like that. That's how it should be.
And
Because
people
you
ask me like,
also get you because look, App State and UCF especially, like there are group of 5 teams, and UCF's part of the Big 12 now, which still
App
doesn't make any
State,
sense to me.
App State punches way above their weight. And here's what made my decision
Yes.
on
Yeah.
adding, because it was either them or East Carolina. I was like, well, App State always punches way above their weight. They got great fans. And have you ever seen their campus up there in Boone, North Carolina?
I've only seen pictures, I think.
It's
I've never been up
beautiful.
there.
It's
Yes.
beautiful, especially in the
Yeah.
fall with all the foliage. Oh man, it's beautiful. But
Hmm.
anyway, so uh, and what made me decide that? Do you remember a couple years ago when North Carolina went up to Boone and they almost lost? It was like 62-60 or whatever. Like it came
Yeah.
down on a failed 2-point conversion.
Right.
I was like, this just fits. And geographically it makes sense. You're right. I mean, you got natural rival in Wake Forest, obviously, in the Tobacco Road schools. You got Virginia Tech less than an hour from you. You've got Clemson right down the road.
Hmm.
And it works. And I add UCF because UCF should be a Power Five school, and it substitutes Florida State. I mean, I would still like if you've got a history with another team that's not in my conference, I'd still have you play them every year. Like Miami, Florida State, they're playing them every year. Miami, Florida, playing every year.
Yeah.
I would make sure those are in contracts and notarized and everything. So then another conference that makes a comeback is the Big East. So pretty much more going from east, northeast to southwest. It's got, I think, it has 10 teams. So you got Boston College, UConn, Syracuse, Rutgers, Temple, Penn State, Pitt, West Virginia, Marshall, James Madison, Liberty, and East Carolina.
It's one heck of a conference right there for sure.
Now I
That's
showed that to
competitive, I
Joey.
think.
I showed that to Joey Foster, and he hated it. He's like, mainly because of Marshall and East Carolina. He's talking about how James Madison and Liberty ain't done nothing. I'm like, well, I mean, especially Liberty and JMU, they've been good at the FCS level, and they're doing good now. I mean, heck, I added App State to the ACC, and I wanted to fill it out. I mean, who else was I going to put? I mean, St. John's and Xavier and Villanova don't have football teams.
Right.
I mean, who do you want me to put? Buffalo? No, I'm keeping them in the MAC.
Yeah. I would keep them in the
But
MAC for
see,
sure.
it keeps that northeast corridor, centralized. It keeps, and plus it's all teams that should be playing each other. Like you get the backyard brawl every year as a conference game
Hmm.
again. You get West Virginia playing Penn State every year as a conference game because I never understood why during the Rich Rod years when they had Pat White and Steve Slayton and they were just running up the score on everybody in the mid 2000s. I don't think they played Penn State one time.
Well, those teams open the season this year, and I think it's a
Yes,
home and home. I think it's in Morgantown this year, and I
yeah, because
think
it
I
was
would,
it was at Penn State last year. Yeah, it's in Morgantown this year.
and it was what was it like 38-15 last year? So like
Yeah,
it,
I think it'll be way
and
more
and
competitive.
I talked with Joey. I had talked with Joey the other day on my show. I said, it looks bad on paper, but talk to me about that game. He said we were in it until the fourth quarter. So it can be a competitive game there with West Virginia and Penn State, but go on real quick and then we'll jump into some of these win totals for sure. But
Yeah, yeah. Um, but then after that, so then you got the Big Ten, and I think you'll like this one. So more going from east to west. So you got Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Purdue,
Yes.
Indiana. Now hold on, it gets better. Purdue,
Okay.
Indiana, Louisville, Louisville,
Oh,
Northwestern, Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota. Tell me you would not want to see that,
I would, and I noticed one thing you did
especially
not
in
do.
basketball.
You know what you
Especially in
didn't do?
what?
Yeah, in basketball, that would be great. You did not mention, and I'm proud of you for this. Pat on the head, buddy. You did not mention a single West Coast team in the Big Ten right there.
No, because no, I'll get to them in a minute.
Yeah,
But are you noticing a theme here?
geographical location
And
matters.
it's teams
And
you
I
got
fully
history with.
agree.
It's teams you got
Yes.
history with. And then
Yeah.
moving west, and also too for the Big Ten championship because it's 12 teams. The Big Ten championship is still playing in Indianapolis. Because think about what's the Big Ten up there in the Rust Belt and Great Lakes region? What are they known for? They're known for snow and cold weather, right?
Right.
Cold weather games. So what I did, and I did it on my revamped. I'll tell you this: I moved the Big Ten championship game because also their headquarters is there too. I moved it from Indianapolis to Soldier Field, Chicago. Wouldn't you love to
Cool.
see Ohio State versus Iowa or the Notre Dame versus Iowa in the Big Ten championship game in 10-degree weather in the snow instead of
Yeah.
in? And now, don't get me wrong, Lucas Oil Stadium is a very nice stadium, and Indianapolis is a fine city, but their headquarters is in Chicago, anyways. Just make the media days every year there, and or rotate between them and Detroit or whatever, in Minneapolis. But anyways, so kind of the dual speed route. So then go west, just basically the original Big Eight. So Nebraska, Iowa State, Colorado, the Kansas schools, Missouri, the Oklahoma schools. There you go.
Okay.
And the base of their conference obviously is Kansas City. And then Southwest Conference. The only difference between the original Southwest is I swapped out Rice for UTSA because I think UTSA is a better program, and Rice, it's not anymore. I didn't do the Vanderbilt thing. And then people told me I should add them because historically they were, but I just think UTSA fits better. And I added Memphis because you got Arkansas, and
Mm.
that way they're so basically to run from team to team. So you got Arkansas, Memphis, Texas Tech, SMU, TCU, Baylor, Texas A&M, Houston, and UTSA. 10 teams, boom, there you go. It's all teams that should play each other, and that got history. And then the
I
last
like it.
one, the Pac-12. So the two Washington schools, Washington State, the two Oregon schools, Oregon State, Stanford, Cal, USC, UCLA. I would not be opposed to swapping out UCLA for San Diego State
You
and the
don't
two
even have to
Arizona
swap
schools.
them out. You don't even have to swap them out. You could just throw San Diego State in there, can you?
Well,
I mean,
I didn't want a conference to be bigger than 12 teams though.
I got you. I got you.
So USC, UCLA, Arizona State, then BYU, Utah.
Love it.
And if you notice,
12
that's seven
teams right there.
conference. I noticed
Yeah.
if I call it the seven majors. So here's
Okay.
what you do for all you people who want to play off. You take those seven conferences, you take the conference champions of each of those conferences, and then you take the highest rated or the G5 champion with the best record. So say like Georgia Southern goes undefeated in the Sun Belt, and they're the only undefeated G5 champion. They're the eighth seed. So if it
Nice.
one V8, 2V7, 3V6, 4V5 deal, and the higher seeded team always hosts the playoff game. It's always at the college stadium. So say like you two seeded, let's just say Alabama. Say Alabama wins the SEC is the number 2 seed, and the number 7 seed is the Southwest Conference champion Arkansas. Arkansas has to go to Tuscaloosa.
All right.
I'm just using that as an example.
Okay.
Or if it's then you do it like I said, and I stole this from Josh Pate. The national championship game every year is played in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. It's not the Rose Bowl itself, it's just at that stadium. That's where it's played every year.
I you know, tradition, they say don't screw with tradition. That's something that I thought was always fun, was that now, a long time ago, Tristar, and you know this, they considered bowl games, the orange, the rose, the sugar, to be national championship. I don't like that, but I like the
Well,
venue.
yeah, because it used to be an
And
SEC. If you won the
yeah,
SEC, you won the Sugar Bowl, and then you got voted on as national champion.
yeah.
But tell me, my conference model would not work, and people would not love it.
I love it. I'm for it. And I do think it would work. I can't really find any issues with it.
Because it's
I
all it's
guess
all teams that should play each other.
especially with it's teams that would play each other that are supposed to play each other. You mentioned your playoff model. Oh god,
Bless you,
I don't know
bless
where
you.
that came from. Thanks. Um, I don't. I really can't find any room for error with it, man. And you mentioned you had 18 playoff, right?
Yes, and eight. It's all
That's
conference
what I think.
champions.
That's what I think should have happened. I don't like this
Because
at
you're going to have a
large.
three-loss team in the playoff.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. And
And
I'm sorry.
this whole deal about like, oh, well, they have too many losses. Who cares? What about the good wins that they had? And who's
Well,
to
see,
say they
that's
won't be
where
motivated? Plus, now how would you do if you do an 18 playoff?
with
I'm
all those
curious.
conference champions.
Yeah. I'm curious what your schedule looks like. Are we playing in January with the championship, obviously? But like, does it
Um,
stretch out? Do you play the Rose Bowl and
well,
everything on like New
okay,
Year's?
okay. So here's what in terms of like the bowl game schedules, like how they are traditionally, I would not mess with them because of tradition and history. Like the Rose Bowl would always be on New Year's Day because it's
Right.
always after the Rose Parade. And what I would do as a consolation prize, because the bowl games would have no connection to the 18 playoffs, zero connection. They're totally separate. So, and I'll go off of historically. Like if you finish runner up in the SEC, like say it's Georgia Tech versus LSU in the SEC championship, and Georgia Tech loses the SEC championship to LSU. LSU would get the
Mhm.
playoff. Georgia Tech would then go play in the Sugar Bowl, if that makes sense.
So you're still keeping the ball tie-ins with conferences then, in a way.
Yes. Yeah, in a way.
I
And then
love
like
it. I
say,
love it.
and then say like the historically with the Big Eight, it was the Orange Bowl. So you say the Big Eight champion this year was Missouri. Whoever was the second champion. Now with those conferences, if they got 10 teams, I'm not doing a conference championship game because they'd all play each other. It'd work itself out. Whoever finishes number two, say Colorado finished second. Missouri will be in the playoff, but Colorado will go play in the Orange Bowl. If that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Versus
yeah.
the number two, the loser in the ACC championship game. That's usually the ACC champion always played in the Orange Bowl. And that's how you did it. In the Southwest Conference champion, being playoff, the runner up would play in the Cotton Bowl. And the runner ups or the losers in the conference championships of the Big Ten and Pac 12 would play in the Rose Bowl. So you keep
I
those
like it.
tie ins.
Yeah. Gotta keep the ball tie-ins for sure, because just based on tradition. Not that they necessarily, I mean, I guess they had it, but think about this. The bowl games like the Rose and the Sugar just happened to start out with these certain teams playing, but then they started even early on with, "Hey, no, we should keep, like, the Big 12 SEC," or whatever it might have been at the time, like and, it just so happened that you had those conferences for certain national championships, and the Rose and the Sugar now. I like now the Pac-12 is gonna fall off. They
Yeah,
got 2 teams, right?
yeah.
So,
But
what are you gonna do about the Rose Bowl going forward? Like, who is playing the Big Ten?
exactly. And see that's what my model does. And I've really sat down and thought about this stuff. What my model does is satisfies everything. You get a playoff
Mhm.
format that makes sense. It's cut and dry. You don't have it's not subjective. Like you have to win your conference to get in. Like if you don't win, you can't say, well, we deserve to get over that team. Well, they won their conference, so they got in. You win your conference, you get in. And
Yeah.
secondly, you know, it keeps rivalries, it keeps the tradition, it keeps teams that want to play each other. And here's the thing, whether people want to admit it or not, the fans want these conferences back. They want the Big Eight back. They want the Southwest
Oh,
back.
yeah.
They want the Big East back. Do you think they were happy about the Pac-12 dissolving? No,
No.
because
No, 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 no,
here's the
no.
thing, what people don't understand, and I guess because I'm a truck driver, I go all over the country and I've talked to fans that live there, that actually live in those areas. Here's the thing, yes, in the over there on the West Coast, a lot of times those games are not going to get as many views just for the fact that you're 2 hours behind 90% of the U.S. population. So
Yeah.
why make people talked about well, we shouldn't be up at 11 o'clock to watch a kickoff against Cal and Stanford. Okay, but then why is USC having to play a big noon game on the East Coast at 9 in the morning? I mean, seriously, it works both ways.
It
I
does.
mean, I'm
I
sorry,
fully
with
agree.
college athletics, because of the fact they're still college students and they have college classes, you got to think of that too. You can't just be thinking, well, we got to chase the money. NASCAR did that crap in the late '90s, and look what happened.
Yeah. And their ratings have gone down the last, like, 4 or 5 years too
No,
because,
since the
I
mid
mean, you could say
2000s.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So, interesting conversation. We got TriStar on the show. Um, we could talk about this all day and
Oh
go
yeah,
on and
well,
on and
but we
on,
we need
but,
to
like,
get to the over unders.
yeah, you
I
ready for this one?
Yes, yeah.
This is from
Let's.
CBS. Yeah, CBS
Now is
Sports.
this
Let's
an
talk about this.
alphabetical? Now is this alphabetical?
So this is SEC. I think it is. I think it's alphabetical is what they're going based on because they start with Alabama, so they're not going with who's going to have the most wins, right? So,
Right.
um, Georgia eyes perfection. Texas poised to make strong first impression. I think Texas and Georgia for the SEC title, but let's see what CBS thinks. Remember, no divisions, by the way, no divisions, which is how I think it should be. But Alabama
Yeah,
starts us off over under 9.5, and the wins are Western Kentucky, USF, at Wisconsin, at Vandy, South Carolina, Missouri. Basically, everyone except home against Georgia and on the road
at
in
Tennessee.
Knoxville. Yeah,
Well,
I
one
had
game they're not
them
mentioning LSU.
LSU. I would also say don't count out Oklahoma late in the year because we don't know. But I
That's the
think
week
going to
before the Iron
Norman late
Bowl.
in the year, it is. It is. Don't count it out because I think in my prediction video, I did it after Kalen DeBoer came in and I said, look, it's a whole nother level stepping up in the SEC compared to the Pac 12 in Washington. I'm not saying he can't do justice for us or do good, but I think I had them Georgia, I had Tennessee, and I had Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken, as 3 losses. I think we get LSU for some reason. I think really, I know what the reason is because LSU just lost some talent with Jaden Daniels going to the NFL. The over under 9.5. They take the over at 10. What would you go? I'm gonna put them at 9-3 though for Kalen DeBoer's
I
first year. 9-3.
because of the fact that Alabama might be the arguably the most question mark team in the SEC this year, because of the fact it's a brand new system, and it's all hinging on does Jalen Milroe adapt to his system. And I
Yeah.
mean, personally, I don't think with what Milroe's skill set is, I don't think it fits because you have to be. He runs more of a kind of a pro style offense, like Michael Penix's system to a glove. He was a great pocket passer. He threw it up the middle really well. He was great at making reads, and he was great. But Milroe, he's one of those guys, and he has to break this. And see, I always call Jalen Milroe a more polished Joe Milton because their
Okay.
skill sets are almost identical. Cannon arms, can run like a deer, but the problem is that they try to make one read, and if they didn't see their first or second read, they try to take off running. Except Joe Milton didn't like running as much, but it was that same kind of deal. If he can adapt to DeBoer's system, I think Alabama could be fairly good this year. But also, too, the question mark nobody's talking about is Alabama's defense because that's a whole new staff.
Especially the secondary. The
Yeah,
secondary
the secondary
did not
is
look good.
a major no. I watched it. The secondary looks. I mean, it's a question. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to
Yeah.
say a question. So I've got right now Alabama at 9-3.
Yeah. I would put them nine
Am I
and
still?
three too.
Yeah, Joey Foster just tried to call me.
Oh, okay. You're still
Yeah,
here though.
well, yeah. I'll text him. I'll say I'm in the I'm on the show right now. Hold on. But anyways, yes. For now, because of the fact I do not know, and it's not any disrespect to Alabama, even though I can't stand them inbred rednecks. But I'll have to say 9-3 for now. I'll have to say that. But they very
And
well could go to
again,
0.
they're picking. Yeah, they could hit 10 win. What they're not going to do is go undefeated, number
No,
one,
I
and
don't
you're
see
not going to
any.
lose just to Georgia. You're dropping the Georgia game, and then you're dropping maybe Tennessee, maybe LSU, Oklahoma, or maybe I mean, they could
I
lose
don't.
those 4 games. They could lose 4.
Now I keep telling Alabama fans this. I'm like, don't sleep on that game at Wisconsin. Now I'm not
Oh,
saying.
yeah.
Now listen, 99.9% of the time, I would say yes. Now, if that game was in Tuscaloosa, yeah, I'd say Alabama would absolutely steamroll Wisconsin. Because I don't think Wisconsin is going to be great. I mean, I think they'll be pretty good, but I don't think they're going to be able to hang with Alabama. But that's an environment you don't know. You're not familiar. It's all the way up at Madison, Wisconsin. You're not, it's not neutral site. It's not in Atlanta or Dallas or whatever. It's in Camp Randall, and that's a very tough place to play, and they're going to be up for that game. And if I remember, wasn't it last year Ohio State went there and they almost lost? And Ohio State was a much
Yeah.
better team than Wisconsin. So uh, that I'll be more concerned about that game in Wisconsin than that game at Oklahoma because by that time, I think that Alabama, whatever kinks they have, should be worked out because that's at the end of the year, and they should have their kinks worked out. So I think it's more
Makes
likely
sense.
you'd lose at Wisconsin than at Oklahoma.
Okay. That
But
makes sense. Let's look at Arkansas. Over under 4.5. They take the under at 4 wins. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, UAB. Oh man. Mississippi State and Louisiana Tech. Um, Oklahoma State loss, obviously. At Auburn, loss. Texas A&M, Tennessee. Actually, Mike Elko comes in at Texas A&M. I love the hire. Hugh Freeze at Auburn. I still don't know about Auburn too much. I mean, I love what they've done recruiting. I love what they've done in
Yeah,
the portal, and they'll be really good. But you got to see it. I have to see it from
which
Hugh Freeze first. He
right.
did
I,
he did
I'll
almost beat Alabama, but he struggled last
well,
year.
he almost beat Georgia too. So I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
and we all
But
know
they're taking
the
the
end,
under at 4.5.
which I'll mention more about Auburn once we get to Auburn. But as we all know, there's an Indian burial
Mhm.
ground underneath Jordan Hare Stadium. Like there's some kind of voodoo that goes on there for
Yeah,
some reason.
I told
And
you
yes,
it's a curse.
Tennessee is a victim
It's a
of
cursed
the
field.
Jordan Hare voodoo. Like I said, we'll go into that once we get to Auburn. But
Yeah.
Arkansas, like I said, man, I really hate it for Sam Pittman because I love that guy. He was our offensive line coach like 10 plus years ago, and he had our offensive line on point back in 2012, 2013. And just we had South Sinceri as our DC, who was horrible. And I mean, I don't know. I think what will end up happening. I'll probably have to go with under two just because I don't know what Arkansas has. They didn't really add much, and there's nothing on their team that scares me. I mean,
The only thing I know they brought in is so KJ Jefferson hit the portal. I don't
he
even
went to
know about the
UCF.
quarterbacks, but I do know they got Petrino. Petrino is the offensive coordinator, which I love, but I don't,
You
like I
you
said, I don't know what Arkansas has talent-wise.
yeah, they're a giant question mark too. And you want to talk about possibly a full circle moment? Bobby Petrino, the last
Mhm.
coach to really do anything at Arkansas, gets fired because he had a mistress on his motorcycle and wrecked. And the famous press conference where
Yeah.
he's got the neck brace and he's all bruised up and is a slime ball of a human being, ends up becoming the next head coach at Arkansas. Because the fans are going to be clamoring for him to be the head coach because, like, yeah, look what he did with Ryan Mallett, rest in peace. Look what he did with him and all these guys. So, yeah, like I said, unfortunately I don't even know if Sam Pittman even makes it through the season. I don't.
Yeah. I forgot to Arkansas with the getting rid of divisions. They don't play Alabama. Alabama is missing from the West Division, Arkansas and the Mississippi schools on their schedule. But you look at Arkansas, they got them over under 4.5, and it looks like they do take the under at 4 wins. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, UAB, Mississippi State, Louisiana Tech. I think they could beat Mississippi State. If you had to pick out of all the losses that they have, Oklahoma State, Auburn, A&M, Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas, Missouri, I think most likely, I would say probably Missouri would give them one more win, if any. But I think
Actually,
it's pretty reasonable that you have all of those as losses.
actually, I'm going to disagree with you on the Missouri one. I think if there's one game, just with how weird the series is, I think if they're going to get that over, it'll be with not Arkansas, with Texas A&M, because for some reason in
Yeah,
that
that makes
series,
more sense. Yeah.
for some reason in that series,
That's neutral
uh,
field too.
that's at Jerry World. That's in Dallas, which I hate. Which that's another tangent I can go on about neutral site games. To me, there should be only two: Oklahoma, Texas, and Army Navy. That's it.
Yeah. Double check the comments. Bulldog JC, what's up, man? VicTube is on the show now. Good
Hey,
morning.
Vic,
hey,
what's up,
good,
brother?
yeah, what's up, TriStar?
What do you
Yeah,
think about
yeah,
Arkansas,
we're,
man?
yeah.
Over under is 4.5.
Oh, yeah, oh, um, under, yeah,
Under, yeah, they go under.
under.
Yeah. Oh, Auburn's next, man. Any final thoughts on Arkansas before we get to the Cal College on the other side of my state?
Cal College.
No, no. I mean, I'll say Sam Pittman is going to make a great offensive line coach wherever he goes if he decides to even coach anymore because he is starting to get up there in years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I love Sam. A lot of people love Sam Pittman. I just don't think I'm not going to say he can't be a head coach. I just I don't see a good fit in
Maybe
the
he's
SEC. I
another.
know he's that. Yeah.
Well, maybe he's one of those guys like a Will Muschamp or a Jeremy Pruitt, like they're great as a position coach or
Right.
great as a DC, but they're just not great as a head coach. I mean that it's he wouldn't be the first, he wouldn't be the last. I mean that
No,
happens all the time.
and even Muschamp has had some good years, but yeah.
He
Yeah.
had like 1 year in Florida, but that was about
I mean,
it.
it's one year
He beat
South Carolina.
Georgia one time.
Yeah, he did win 9 games at South Carolina one time. So
Yeah. Law Tide says he beat Georgia one time.
yeah, he did. He did beat Georgia
Yeah,
one.
what was that?
2019.
20. Wait. No.
19.
Well,
19.
no, I was talking about at Florida when he had I think, what was it 2012? He won
Yeah,
like 10 games,
2012 when he went like
10-2
11.
or something like that.
Yeah, 11-1. Yeah, his only loss being to Georgia, but yeah.
Oh, this is reasonable, I think. So let's talk the Auburn Tigers. Over under is 7.5. They go over 7.5 at 8 wins, with wins against Alabama A&M, California, New Mexico. That's funny. They lost to New Mexico State last year, if I recall. Arkansas, at Kentucky, Vanderbilt, ULM, Texas A&M are the wins. The losses, which I guess is reasonable, Oklahoma, and then 3 road losses at Georgia, at Missouri, at Alabama. Think about this. Oklahoma is played in September. If Auburn pulls that off, they they very well could finish 9-3 if you want to count in the other losses.
Oh,
Maybe they
absolutely.
take on Missouri. They could go 10. Here's the thing. Peyton Thorne comes back. Um, you got to look at the rest of it. They're recruiting off the charts right now. They do bring in some 5-star receivers and like Cam Coleman or whoever. And
Cam
then who's
Coleman,
that?
Perry
Is it Perry
Thompson.
Thompson?
Yeah,
Yep,
Perry
yep.
Thompson. Same high school as
So
not Jerry, Julio Jones.
yeah, Hugh Freeze is recruiting and using the portal big
Oh,
time. We
he's
looked at
he's
it
bringing
the
the
other
guys
day.
in there.
He's
Because here's the thing: if you go
here's
back and watch
yeah.
Auburn last year, one thing you'll notice, I don't think Peyton Thorne was the problem. I think it was the receivers
Uh-uh.
because you
It was
had
the
so many
receivers.
The receiver
drop
part.
balls. It was not even funny.
Yeah, they're gonna have
And
much
think
better
about the games.
group of
Go
receivers.
ahead, Vic.
Yeah, I was saying that they're gonna
Yeah.
have a much better group of receivers this year. They've got Cam Coleman. It's a 5-star freshman, and they brought in some new receivers to the portal. So
Don't count out rivalries for the Auburn Tigers. Look
Exactly.
at Georgia
Well,
last year. Look at Alabama
uh,
last year. Those both, I think, were one-score games. And I know
well,
they got to go on the road, and they have
I was
struggled
about
on
to
the road against
say
those teams.
because
But
if those games were in Jordan Hare, yeah, I would say Auburn's absolutely got a chance. But historically, how Auburn is anytime they play Georgia or Alabama, it usually doesn't go well on the road. It's
no,
usually when they beat them, it's
right,
in Jordan Hare.
yeah,
And back to my point, when I say Tennessee was also a victim of the Auburn voodoo at Jordan Hare Stadium,
hmm
in 2003, Tennessee was ranked in the top 5. They were undefeated. Auburn had lost to USC to open the season. They went to Georgia Tech. They lost pretty badly. It wasn't like they got blown out, but you could tell they just did not look good. They looked horrible. And the story was
yeah,
on Five Bombs radio show and by fans and stuff like that was not, well, is Tennessee going to win? It's by how much are they like? How bad are they going to beat Auburn? Auburn was horrible. And going into the fourth quarter of that game, Tennessee being, I think they were number 5 in the nation, against unranked Auburn. I think they were 0-2 at the time, or 0-3, or 1-3, or something like that. Auburn was up 28-0.
yeah.
So yeah, so there's some weird Indian burial ground under that stadium. There's always some kind of weird voodoo about that stadium.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm
Very
hammering the
few
over on
teams.
Auburn.
Oh, me too. I would say very few teams make it out of Jordan's scare.
Yeah. Yeah, so I did a
It's a cursed field, and very few make it out.
yeah, so when I did my I did a video, prediction video on Auburn. I had them going 7-5, so I guess I'm taking the under. But
Yeah. Who'd you have them lose to?
let's see. Well, other than Georgia and Alabama, let's see, Oklahoma and
Mhm.
I forget who else, but
What
yeah,
about Missouri? Do you have them losing to
yeah,
Missouri?
I
At
did
Mizzou.
Missouri
What
and
about
yeah, yeah, and Kentucky. Yeah,
Oh, you got them losing
Kentucky?
Kentucky.
Okay.
yeah.
Dang. I want to see their over under.
Well, we'll get to them in a second.
Yeah. Um, I would definitely take the over 7.5 for Auburn. I know they get their rivals on the road. That Oklahoma game, I'm telling you, could set the tone early on. If they pull an upset, because Oklahoma, I guarantee, will be favored, but it is at
Oh
Jordan
yeah.
Hare Stadium in September. If they could pull that off, they're definitely hitting the over 7.5. I just think it's one of those years where Hugh Freeze is getting no more than 9 wins, but you could see him get into a pretty good bowl game at the end of the year. 5 stars on the field, Peyton Thornback, good chemistry. Second year, let's go. I'm high on Auburn, and I I just they have to really mess up early on in the season with like California or Alabama A&M or whoever. They have to like really do what they did against New Mexico State for me not to buy in this year, I think. I think that's fair. But I would take the over here for Auburn for sure. Up next, unless you guys got anything else on Auburn, oh gosh, Florida.
Hammer the under.
Oh, I know.
Those
I would say 2-10. I wouldn't be surprised.
4.5. Yeah, I'll take the under. Yeah.
No, no. I'm talking
Yeah,
about
four and
you
a
better
half.
go in there. No, Vic, you better wheel in there and go in there at gunpoint and steal the under.
They got them beat in Kentucky. No
I
way.
don't.
No, 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 no.
No, I don't see him being Kentucky.
Hmm.
So their
Uh,
wins are Samford being the school here in Alabama. Okay, I
Birmingham.
get it. At Mississippi State, I don't know.
I could kind of
UCF,
maybe.
Gus
No,
Malzahn,
Mississippi State. Yep.
the the Gus Bus,
Yep, Mississippi State. Yep.
I don't see him
Mississippi
winning at
State.
Mississippi State. Now, I guess I can
No,
understand because Jeff Levy's first year and we don't know what Mississippi State is. But Florida's going to be absolute dog crap. Keep it family friendly.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, here's the thing. I don't think you're going to see like with Tennessee playing Florida this year. You know, out of history of the series, out of respect for the history of the series, I'm going to say Tennessee probably does play down a little bit to their competition against Florida because for some reason we always do against Florida. I don't know why. And it's not even a hypel thing. This has been going on for a long time. We've always had issues with Florida, but it being in Knoxville, I'm not picking us to lose that game.
hmm
You go in Tennessee's schedule when we
nah.
get to Tennessee.
I would say they do get wins with Samford, UCF. I'm not buying Kentucky. Anyone on the losses that you could see an upset. I think Florida, they're going to be
There's a
terrible,
possibility where
yes,
Florida.
but
There's a possibility Florida could even go 1-11
1-11.
yeah,
because
gosh,
their only guaranteed win I see is Sanford. That's
Yeah.
it.
Well, I think
yeah,
they.
UCF's no
UCF's going to be a
slouch.
pretty good team. You
Yeah.
got Miami at the
Yeah,
start of the year. and then you got Florida State at the end of the year, and then
Look at
who's
this.
their other non?
Look at the
Who's their other
analysis.
non-con?
The non-con is
Sanford,
um,
Yeah,
UCF,
and UCF
Florida State,
and Miami.
Okay, so okay, Stanford. Okay,
Miami.
I've got them beating Stanford, but I don't have them winning a conference game except maybe Vanderbilt.
Do they,
Maybe.
do they play Vanderbilt?
Yes, they play
No,
Vanderbilt.
they don't.
They don't play.
Oh,
Yeah,
they
No,
don't.
they don't.
play
Oh,
Vanderbilt.
They don't. Look at this.
Yeah, they don't get Van.
No Vandy.
No, no. Yeah, I think they can beat
Wow.
Stanford.
No South Carolina
This
either. No South
State. They can
Carolina.
just
No
beat,
Missouri.
and then maybe
but that
beat
I will
Miami.
say this:
And
that final 5 week stretch for Florida might be the toughest 5 game stretch I have ever seen.
yes,
Yeah.
Kansas lost. Georgia lost. Yeah.
Look at what they put in the analysis to start out. Poor Gators and poor Billy Napier. That's funny. Okay. So under 4.5, I would go under 4.5. I would say 4 and
Oh,
8 for Florida, maybe 3 and 9.
Yeah, 4 and 8 or 3 and 9. Yeah.
I could absolutely see Florida going 1-11. I could absolutely see it.
Yes, could happen.
Because I think by the time they get to say the Tennessee game, was really when their schedule starts, like the real meat of it, I think they're already in give up mode. I think they're already in give up mode. I think their fans are in give up mode. I think that their players are giving up on Billy Napier.
Yeah.
I think once he gets blown out by Georgia and they see the schedule, I think they're probably going to end up parting ways with old Sunbelt Billy.
Yeah.
And he's
So
probably,
Georgia,
he's probably gonna be,
yeah. Go ahead.
He's probably gonna be heading back home. He's probably gonna be heading back home to Chatsworth, Georgia, after he gets fired.
Yeah. I gotta disagree with one thing on Georgia though. Here's the thing. It says I've made a policy, and who put this out? Let me see. This is Will Backus from CBS Sports. So, getting to Georgia, he says I've made it a policy not project Georgia losses until Georgia actually loses, and I get that because they're going to be a juggernaut this year, and they're going to be really good. If I had to pick, first off, they're not going to do worse than 10-2 because I look at Texas and I look at Ole Miss on the road. But if I had to pick just one loss, I think at Texas is your loss, Vic. What do you think? I think not outright, but you do beat Clemson week 1, which will be a good game. I do think you get us in Tuscaloosa. Auburn at home, you'll get Georgia Tech. Keep dreaming if you're a Georgia Tech. Yeah, Tennessee at home. There's a loss somewhere on the schedule. Like Georgia has to slip up, right? At some point. I just think it is a tough schedule. You can't go into this year like you did last year where Georgia doesn't play a tough schedule because you open with Clemson, you go to Texas, you go to the Rebels, you play Tennessee, you do play at Kentucky. Kentucky's going to drop off just a little bit, but you're going to get them. I say Texas gets Georgia this year at Austin. Because I think is that game not in November? I think it's late in the year.
No, it's
wait. No, it's the same day as Tennessee, Alabama. It's October 19th.
So the third Saturday. Okay.
No, it's second. Yes, yeah.
No, Georgia goes to Texas the same day Tennessee and Alabama play.
That's the third Saturday in October, right?
Yeah.
Third Saturday?
My thoughts on Georgia, again, Georgia's even a question. Because now I'm not saying they're not going to be great. I believe they will, because Kirby's not underperformed yet, as far as I can tell. The question is going to be: is Carson Beck? How is he going to do without his 2 safety blankets? And I was talking to a Georgia fan on Twitter this morning in one of my spaces, and he even said he's worried about. He don't understand why Carson Beck's getting all this hype. And there's questions about the D-line. Secondary is going to be great. I'm not worried about the secondary. They still got Malachi Starks. They got KJ Bolden, he's a
What?
freshman. He'll be really good.
Yeah.
They got guys in the secondary. I'm not worried about their secondary. It's mainly their defensive line. Their offensive line is going to be elite. The run
What's
game
wrong?
should be fine. It's
What's wrong with
mainly
our defensive line?
no. I said defensive line is the kind
Yeah,
of the question.
yeah. What's
I,
wrong with
I
with
no,
our?
the offensive line is great.
I was asking
No, there's
what's wrong with our defensive line?
well, can y'all be better at getting to the quarterback?
With Kirby Smart at head coach, though, he's like yelling at him right
Yeah, don't
now
worry.
to
Yeah,
like get after the
don't worry.
quarterback. I'm
Don't
sure.
worry about our
Yeah.
defensive line, TriStar. Yeah.
I never worry. I would worry about their defensive line if I'm an SEC opponent, is what I would say about Georgia right now.
Well, I'm just saying that they're a question. I'm not saying they're going to be bad. I'm just saying we don't know.
If anything, I would agree, though, if anything's a question for them on the team, it might be the defensive line, but it's not a big question. Is that
No.
what you're saying?
Yes, that's what
Yes,
I'm
that's
saying
what.
on the defensive side. Like I'm not worried about their
Yeah.
linebackers. I'm not worried about the secondary. They're going to be fine. But I'm
Mhm.
talking
Yeah.
about uh, like who's Carson Beck going to be throwing to? Who does he
Yeah.
trust? Like there's questions there.
He's going to be
That's all I'm
throwing.
saying.
He's going to be throwing to Dominic Lovett and Colby Young and Oscar
Tyra
Jeff.
Thomas.
Yeah, and Ra Thomas. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's
We'll see.
gonna
But
throw when he goes to Tuscaloosa, he'll be throwing a Malachi Moore too, Vic. So keep your mouth shut. Then anyway, I'm just kidding. Got him. Malachi Moore. I hope Malachi Moore picks off a couple guys this year. No, but Georgia, look, Georgia's a juggernaut right now, man. And I don't even think. Here's the thing. Last year, they were undefeated. They lose to Alabama. They miss the playoffs. They go blow out Florida State. Last year was not a down year for. They just happened to not make the playoffs. I think Georgia probably should have made it. I think you could have made a case for Georgia and Florida State to have been in that playoff, but you weren't going to leave out the SEC champ and
No.
put Georgia in there.
No.
You know, and Florida State. Here's the thing, man. The committee, not us, but the committee was not going to leave out the SEC.
No.
And that's exactly what they did, was not leave them out. So they put Alabama in instead of Florida State. And you can make a case that uh, uh the injuries for Florida State kept them out. I don't know about that. I don't know if that was it. But anyway, getting back on because we could talk about that all day long and some other time.
Mm-hmm.
But Georgia's going to be good this year, and I think they took out some frustration of not meeting their goals last year on Florida State,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
I think it's going to carry on into 2024. Even
Yeah.
though it is a tough schedule, I think
Yeah.
they could clobber some teams.
Yep.
Clobbering time. So, Georgia, they're taking over 10.5. I would agree. I would not be surprised if they go undefeated, but I would say late in the year or mid-October, whenever the game is, I think you do lose to Texas. If I had to give you one loss on the schedule.
Yes, I did an Ole Miss prediction yesterday, and yes, I do have us losing to Ole Miss as our one loss.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I could see that. I think if you do go 10-2, those 2 games are your losses. But if you go 11-1, it's definitely between those 2. I just see where we kind of disagree on who we would take. You take the Rebels, I take the Longhorns.
Yeah.
But I think either way it could go.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with that. What's the over under on Georgia?
For
10 and a
Georgia,
half. 10.5.
it's 10.5. You take the over
I
definitely
yeah,
at 10.5.
I'm probably taking it.
Up next, Kentucky is 6.5. They take the under. They actually have them going 6-6
Oh,
with
no.
losses: Georgia, Ole Miss, Florida, Auburn, Tennessee, and Texas. Now they beat Vandy, they beat Murray State and Louisville, Ohio, South Carolina, Southern Miss. Are they gonna beat Louisville? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they
Ooh,
always
Yeah,
beat Louisville, so
they do,
yeah,
but
usually they do. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I'd agree with that. I think,
Owned Louisville lately, but yeah.
yeah, I'd agree with that.
okay. I don't really have much else to say on Kentucky other than they will struggle a little bit, but they will still make a bowl game. They I think again, they got them 6-6. I think that's reasonable for Kentucky. I think you're underachieving if you're Mark Stoops,
Uh,
but at the same time, you got Brock Vandergrift, who is a good quarterback, but he never started at Georgia, did
No,
he, Vic?
no,
He never
no.
really started a
No,
game.
He was
So
stuck behind. He's been stuck behind Stetson Bennett and Carson Beck. So yeah.
yeah, he's
And
a
Gunner
left behind.
Stockton.
Well, no, actually,
Yeah,
actually he was second string last year. So
yeah. This one's good. Oh my gosh.
yeah, I would say can
I,
yeah, I would say over. Yeah, I would say 7-5.
I,
Please,
I'm going to take the under on Kentucky. I agree with you. I got
I'm
Kentucky
gonna
going
take the under
6-6.
too. I'll go 6-6 or 5-7 if they
So
mess up a game, like
yeah,
South Carolina or whoever.
7-5. Yeah,
And for people that's saying that they might give Tennessee a game, listen, the
they might.
history of the
No,
Tennessee Kentucky, no, it's not happening. Listen,
no.
big. Here's how it is in the Tennessee Kentucky series. If it's in Knoxville, if it's at Neyland, Tennessee will beat Kentucky by 40.
Well, you said
It's on.
could they give them a game? Well, of course. I mean, anything can happen. I mean,
Yeah, but no, that's not happening.
This is going to be a fun season for Kentucky, man. I like Mark Stoops, and I pull like because I'm not like you guys. I'm not a Georgia or a Tennessee guy, so I don't know how you guys feel about Kentucky necessarily. But I'm an Alabama guy. I have no beef, so I like Mark Stoops, right? But it's still
To hell with them coal
like
miners.
Kentucky.
yeah, no beef. Yeah. Well, I don't really have
I
Ten,
mean,
well,
Kentucky either.
Tennessee's going to send them back to the coal mines. That's what we're going to do.
Right. Well,
yeah,
I don't really have beef with Kentucky either. But
yeah. Anyway, Kentucky, they take the under 6.5. I would agree, but I hope they're wrong. I hope Kentucky sticks around the 7-5 range for like personal reasons because I like Mark Stoops. Anyway, uh LSU.
let's who
Oh, they got them 10-2. Well, 10-2,
10 and a half,
9.5.
9
This is a team I got some
and a
beef
half.
with. You're
Yeah.
not losing you are not losing Jaden Daniels and winning 10 games. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Well,
Yes.
now
That's
to
not going
give
to
them the
happen.
benefit of the doubt, I mean, Garrett Nussmeier is a really good quarterback. You didn't see really much of any of them last year, but he is really good, I think, and I think he will make some noise. Now, yeah, is he going to
As
be Jaden
good as
Daniels?
Jaden Daniels.
No,
Is he winning the Heisman? No. So
no, he's not winning the Heisman. No.
Well, why is LSU is this two home and homes at the same time with USC UCLA
No,
and they have
no,
them winning?
they
US
play USC in Las Vegas. They get UCLA in Baton Rouge.
Okay, so USC is a kickoff game and then they host the Bruins.
Yes, I
yeah,
think they
Okay.
very well could beat
Nichols
both of them.
yeah, they'll
Nichols
Nicholls
is a
State,
win
play definitely.
at South Carolina, South
they'll win.
Alabama a win, at Arkansas, at Texas A&M, at Florida Vanderbilt. Ah, Oklahoma.
Well, they get Oklahoma at home. This last game of the
I
season.
I just I know this sets up nicely for them, but they're gonna mess up somewhere. I just have that feeling LSU is gonna mess up in a game, and I love Brian Kelly,
Hmm.
but I'm sorry, they're not going 10-2.
Right.
I think they
Well,
drop a game
well,
somewhere.
my
I don't know where it is.
Right.
Maybe
I'm
Florida
actually
if they're stupid.
It probably
I'm going to I'm
A&M.
actually going to agree with that. I'm going to take the over at 10-2 because again they get Oklahoma at home. I think the over under is going to hinge on the Oklahoma game at the end of the year.
So are you agreeing with me or the over under?
I'm agreeing with that over under. I'm taking the over because
Okay.
I think that they do get Oklahoma at home. Now, if that was in Norman, I maybe lean Oklahoma, but because it's in Baton Rouge, I'm going to go with LSU. And it's at the end of the year, and Oklahoma already be kind of beat
Well,
up in the
why
SEC.
they got a pretty nice road schedule. But think about it. Their 2 losses, Ole Miss and Alabama, both of those are home games. Um,
It's more likely that they lose at Texas A&M than them losing to Oklahoma at home. If that makes any sense.
yeah. Yeah. Let's see. They do take the over 9.5, obviously. I just I don't know. Garrett Nussmeier's not bad, but again, he's not Jaden Daniels. And let me ask you that: do you need a Jaden Daniels type quarterback to run this LSU offense? Do you need that?
I I don't think so because I mean Nussmeier when he was in he looked great. So
He did.
I I don't think there's going to be any issue in terms of the offense. It's mainly can their defense get any better? Now, I think Blake Baker was a good hire. I just don't think you're going to see his good results in year one because he's got to completely flip that defense.
Right. Right. Um. Oh gosh, Mississippi State. Who's it? Jeff Lebby. Over under is 4.5, and they pick the under. The under, and they only give them Eastern Kentucky, Arizona State, Toledo, and UMass. All losses are in conference outside of. Well, no, they're all in conference. And again, the Mississippi schools uh, do not have Alabama.
Nope. Nope. All right. Three. Was it 3.5?
4.5.
Four and a
They
half.
take the under, but they give them 4 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Eastern Kentucky, Arizona State on the road, Toledo, and UMass.
Right. So all of their non-cons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they don't have them. So I guess they have them losing to Arkansas then.
Yeah, they got them losing to Arkansas, Missouri, Ole Miss, Florida, Texas, and
That's,
Tennessee. They get Florida at home.
they got them going. Oh, and
Mm.
yep.
I think that game could go either way, but I know it's going to be close. I just have that feeling it's going to be close with Florida.
I guess they could.
But I could see it go either way.
I guess they could beat Florida, or they could beat Arkansas. But
Yeah. TriStar, you want to chime in on this one?
Um, I'd have to hear their conference schedule. I mean, I agree. I think they'll win
For
all
their
their
conference,
non-con games.
so Florida at home, Texas and Georgia on the road, A&M at home, Arkansas at home, Tennessee on the road. We know that's a loss for you. You're taking Tennessee, of course. Missouri at home, and Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl is at the Grove.
Yeah. So I can actually see them beating Florida. And there's another
Okay.
one. Can you go over that again, like sort of beginning?
At Texas, at Georgia, Texas A&M, Arkansas.
I could see them beating Arkansas. So
Yeah.
I'm
So
actually
you
going to take the over.
and you would take those 2 extra games as wins. You would have Mississippi State at 6-6 then, and have them in a bowl game. if assuming you're taking the wins that they have, Eastern Kentucky, Arizona State, Toledo, and UMass. Are those
Yes,
wins?
that's what I'm saying. Because again, those are going to be, in the words of Urinary Tree, those are going to be tank bowls between Mississippi State and Arkansas, Mississippi State and Florida.
Yeah.
It's basically who's just going to suck more. And I think that Arkansas and Florida are going to just suck more. So
They
I'm
say the
right.
Bulldogs are in reset and rebuild mode, so it's hard to expect much from them in Levy's year one. I agree, but uh, don't count them out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
You
not
know,
saying we're winning the SEC. I could see them winning like 6 games.
I want to know if Florida can handle the cowbell.
No. Now
Shout out
that
to my
now the
radio.
Arkansas game, is that in Starkville or is that in Fayetteville?
That is Starkville.
Okay, yeah, I'm taking Mississippi State.
Shout out to my radio boss. He sent me one meme one day. Because he's a Mississippi State guy. It was Christopher Walken, and it said, "What I need is more cowbell." There might not
Uh,
be too much cowbell this year, but
well,
we'll see.
so I'll before we get, well, I will say this: for the fighting Jerry Clowers, I'm going to take the over.
Hmm. Yeah.
Please tell me
Oh,
y'all know who Jerry Clower was.
the name sounds familiar, but I can't. I'm going to be honest and not try to
Jerry
lie.
Clower was a comedian. Jerry Clower was a comedian from Yazoo City, Mississippi.
Jerry
He used to
Hill.
look
Mhm.
Jerry Clower. He played football at Mississippi State back in the 40s,
Hmm.
and he ended up getting agriculture, and he's from Yazoo City, Mississippi,
Hmm.
and he went to Mississippi State
Hmm.
for agriculture and played football
Hmm.
after he got out of the military, and uh, he ended up becoming a comedian, a stand-up comic. He'd always talk about his friend Marcel Ledbetter. He's hilarious. He sounds like your grandfather. That's what he sounds like Ballard. Imagine old Papa over there telling old country stories. That's what Jerry Clower sounds like.
Yeah. 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 Up next,
So I call them the fighting Jerry Clowers.
Fight.
I got you. Over under is 9.5 for Mizzou, and they got them over 9.5. They actually got them 10-2. They got a pretty good non-con schedule. Murray State, Buffalo, and Boston College all at home. Vandy at home, at
Well,
UMass. Those are wins. Auburn, Oklahoma, at South Carolina, at Mississippi State, and then Arkansas at home. Uh Losses
I agree with that.
at A&M. The losses are A&M and Alabama both on the road. The only team I see that could go to Missouri and win, maybe Oklahoma, maybe Auburn. But outside of that, they should be able to handle the road schedule and they should be able to win these games at home. It sets up very nicely because you get teams like Vanderbilt in there. You got to go to UMass. That shouldn't be too bad. But Boston College, I think, is terrible right now. Um, they have been for a while. I would take the over and give them 10 wins.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hmm.
I would
What do you
put
think,
the
Vic?
games of Oklahoma.
Go ahead, TriStar.
I would put because it's a rivalry game and a lot of history and a lot of hatred. I put Oklahoma's toss up, and I put Auburn as a toss up.
Okay, so you could see them at minimum. They could be 8-4, but
Eight and
at
four.
most 10
Eight
and
and four.
2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's doable. So, how many more teams do we have? Oklahoma over under is 7.5. They go under 7.5, and their losses, they actually got them 7-5. Texas is a loss. I could see that. At Ole Miss, at Missouri, Alabama at home, and at LSU. Again, there's a part of me, I know Alabama late in the year, but I feel like Oklahoma's going to find a way to upset Kalen DeBoer. I would give them so again they got them 7-5. So if I had to take out of that, I agree with the other losses. Well, I don't know if I agree with LSU. I could see them 9-3 or 8-4. I have a feeling Alabama's going to drop the
Uh,
Oklahoma game.
I drove through some bad signal. You just glitching a little bit. Can you repeat what their over under is and who they got them winning and losing?
Over
Oklahoma.
under is 7.5.
Hey, 7.5.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm going through some rough signal. So I'm assuming you say 7.5.
Yes.
I can't.
7.5. Wow, that's tough. I mean, I can see them going 8-4 or 7-5. So I mean, this one's kind of a hard.
Well, the question the question with Oklahoma is their offensive line.
Yeah.
And their defense, but yeah,
I mean, I think their defense will be all right. I mean, Brent Venables is a really good defensive line. I
it's got
think
Brent
it's just
Venables year 3. I mean, the defense was a lot better last year than they were the year before. So
I would
maybe
yeah.
they
expect
So I think their defense.
constant
improve with Venables. Yeah.
I
So
would expect
just
constant
kind of looking
improvement on the defense.
the what's going to tell me and the nation about Oklahoma is their first SEC game at home versus Tennessee. Because that's got so many storylines. Besides being Oklahoma's first game in the conference, that's also Josh Heupel's return to Norman.
Oh, yeah,
After a
that's
little
right.
lock and get fired.
Heupel's going home. Yep.
So
Mhm.
Oklahoma, I think both teams are going to win that game, especially.
Huh?
Oh, yep. Yep. Think we lost him.
Yeah, we lost TriStar. He was chopping up there.
Okay, am I better now?
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, like I said, I'm driving through the farm field right now, so signal can be kind of hit and miss. But I was saying that what's going to tell everybody about Oklahoma is their first SEC game against Tennessee, because
Yeah.
that is Josh Heupel's return to Norman. For people that don't know, and for people that don't even know this, Josh Heupel is Oklahoma's last quarterback to win a national championship in 2000.
I knew that. Yep.
And runner up for the Heisman, and to Chris Winkie, Florida State, and uh, it's all going to come down to their offensive line, like because they lost all 5 starters from last season on the offensive line. I think Jackson Arnold's going to be a great quarterback eventually. It's just I don't think his offensive line is going to do him any favors this year.
Right.
So for now, I'm probably going to have them at 7-5. I don't have to have them at the under.
I agree. I think they'll get better as the years go on, and they might get used to the SEC. But for this year, like they're making a bowl. but they're going to take a lot of SEC losses. They're not going to be anywhere close to hitting the championship.
No.
Who's next here? Ole Miss over under 9.5. Whoa! They
Nine.
got nine
Yep.
and a half. Okay, I get the 9.5. They
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
have
Give
them
me
losing
over.
to Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Give
only
me
have
the
them 11 and
over.
1.
So I
Yeah,
guess they're.
I'm in the
So I guess
over on
they're picking the over. I
this.
guess.
Yeah, just a loss to Georgia.
Yeah. So I guess it's the over. Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah. Right.
I
Well, I
guess.
was saying just a loss to LSU. Yeah. Because remember, I have them beating Georgia. So
Wake For they got to play Wake Forest
yeah, that
out on the
yeah, they
road.
win. Yeah. Yeah.
I think they'll beat Wake Forest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they beat Wake. Um, Mississippi State,
Mississippi State. Yeah. Yeah. That's a win. Yeah.
that's a win. South Carolina on the road. LSU on the. I'd be careful with those road games, but I think they win. So pick the over 9.5. If you win that, you get 124. I don't know. They even talk about making the 12-team playoff for Ole Miss. I'd be shocked if they do anything less of that. If they're not one of the 12 best teams in college football this next season, something's wrong with Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
He's
This
got the
schedule.
secret sauce. He's got the secret sauce,
Yep.
you know?
Schedule is pretty easy. So
Uh-oh.
I mean outside of the Georgia game, but yeah.
Where's Twisted Rooster and Jackpot? I need them in here. Gamecock Chuck, you too. South Carolina over under 5.5. They take the under. Old Dominion, Akron, Vandy, and Wofford, and that's it. Everyone else is a loss. Now it is a tough schedule. I will admit that. At Kentucky is a loss. LSU, Ole Miss, at Bama, at Oklahoma, A&M, Mizzou, and at Clemson. Now, is Clemson? Aren't they still undefeated since Tyler called in?
Are they? Yeah. Can
Are
y'all?
they? Did they beat Kentucky?
Um. Yeah. Probably.
I think so.
I mean, yeah. I mean, South Carolina's had their number lately. They've beaten them the
Who
last
was it?
2 weeks.
Tyler from Spartanburg or whatever.
Spartanburg, yeah.
Yeah. Can y'all? Yeah. Yeah. Can y'all still hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you, Vic.
Yeah. I was afraid maybe I'd kick myself out because I accidentally hit something. But yeah. Yeah. Did you know
You're
that
good.
that the last 2 years, Kentucky has not beaten South Carolina in anything?
Hmm, that's sad. That's poverty. I would go any losses on. That's a brutal stretch, especially in SEC play. I so they got them at 4 wins. I'll say 5-7 at most. If they do pick up an extra win, I think it's at Kentucky for South Carolina. Maybe Texas A&M. I don't know. Why do I have a feeling they might surprise and make a bowl game? Because they've done it before, but I know the schedules are a bit tougher, and with the realignment of the SEC, um, I think obviously the non-conference with Akron, Wofford, and Old Dominion that is very favorable for sure. But you do have Lenora Sellers, as it mentions down here, going to start at quarterback. Uh-oh. TriStar, Tennessee's up next.
Over under 9.5, taking over.
They take the over, and they got you 10-2 with losses to Oklahoma and Georgia.
Yeah.
I, I've,
Probably.
I've got us beating Oklahoma in a close one.
Yeah, it's probably about what I would have too. Yeah.
They
And the only
got
reason I'm not,
Bama as a win.
well, it's in Neyland, so
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I almost wanted to
Yeah,
go to that game this year,
yeah, it's
like
in
really
Broken
badly.
Neal. Yeah, it's in yeah, yeah, it's in Broken Nealon. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Broke
garbage truck
yes,
workers convention.
broken yes, Broken Knee Land. Yeah.
hey, that's fine. You can give that Tennessee slander all you want to. You'll find out.
Yeah, they low down, they dirty, they some snitches.
Well,
Florida's a win. Kentucky, Mississippi State. I guess I could
hey,
see this. Yeah,
if you don't call slow down dirty, at least we're not trotting out some drunk redneck out there to be the face of our program. I mean,
yeah. Who else is left? They're going in alphabetical order here, so we still got a couple teams, I think.
and
But they do
Texas.
take over 9.5 for Tennessee. I guess I could see that. I
So
just
what's their description on
yeah.
Tennessee?
Tennessee is flying under the radar a bit as a legitimate college football playoff competitor, given the opportunities that come with an expanded field. That neutral site game against NC State will be a tough early test. And opening SEC play on the road against Oklahoma is difficult considering the environment and the fact that the Volunteers really struggle on the road under Josh Heupel. Georgia is also an automatic loss for just about every team in the nation, but other than that, Tennessee gets tossed up games against the likes of Florida and Alabama at home. It doesn't draw any other teams that look too intimidating at this point. That's fair. I don't know if Florida's necessarily a toss up game.
Well,
I think
I think
Tennessee
they
is going to be
say
good enough.
because of last year and just the history of the Tennessee Florida series and
Yeah,
stuff.
Florida always plays y'all tough. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
Florida
so
always gives us a
terrible.
game. Like no, like literally, like last year, Florida had no business being in a game against Tennessee, but they scored 3 touchdowns in the second quarter. Now, granted,
Yeah,
that was in the
that's a
swamp,
good assessment.
and here's the thing: like people think like we're the only ones. I vividly remember. I think it was 2015. Ole Miss, the week after they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, they were like number 3 in the country. They go play Florida the week after I think we played them, and like they beat us on a Hail Mary in Gainesville. And Florida was, I remember, because Florida was ranked like 25th, and Ole Miss was ranked third, and Ole Miss just got the daylights beat out of them in
Yeah,
Gainesville. So I just think that's just a really tough stadium to win in. I mean, heck, wasn't it a couple years ago when Dan Mullen's last season that Florida dang near beat Alabama?
yes,
yeah.
they did. Yeah, they did. They only
Bryce Young.
2 points. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was like 29-28 or something like that.
Yeah, or 29-27 or something like
Yeah, it
that.
was. It
Or
came down to the wire though. But Florida that year had no business being in a game with Alabama, but it took Alabama basically to pull some magic to win that one.
Yeah, I think Tennessee be okay though. Oklahoma and Texas on the road, or Oklahoma and Georgia on the road. For Tennessee, makes sense that those could be your two losses. Now, of those, you might get away with the Oklahoma game if you're careful, but I don't think you go to Athens and win.
No,
If
I
I
don't. I
had to
don't have
pick
us
one of
winning
the wins,
Athens,
if I had to pick
Oklahoma.
one of the wins that they have, one of the wins that they have for you, if I had to pick an extra loss, if Alabama gets it together by October, they're winning in Knoxville. If they get it together, but I'm not gonna bank on that because I do have Tennessee beating Alabama this year.
Yeah, and like I said, I just the reason I'm saying I think we win against Oklahoma is because of the fact that Oklahoma's offensive line is a giant liability this year.
Right.
And with how I know our front seven is going to be, James Pierce, all those guys on that front seven, I got a feeling that they're just going to eat up old Jackson Arnold, unfortunately. I think he's going to get to know James Pierce very well.
Yeah.
So I mean, now like I said, I'm not saying we're going to blow them out. I think it's like my prediction. I think was like 38-35. I think it's a close one
Well,
because I mean I will give them that respect because it's in North.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see who's next. Texas is next. We should still have Vanderbilt after this. Let me see. No, A&M and Vandy. Okay. Let's run through these. Over under 10.5. They picked the over for Texas, and their lone loss is Georgia. Again, I mentioned Texas earlier when we were talking about Georgia,
mm-hmm.
and I do think that's reasonable. I think they're going to come in here. They bring a lot back. They made the playoff last year. Quinn Ewers comes back. You bring in Isaiah Bond at wide receiver. You also bring in, a lot of guys on the secondary to help out there. I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to be good, and I think they're going to be ready and loaded and ready to go.
Here's my
Lost to
question though
Georgia.
about Texas. Here's my question though
Yeah,
about Texas is their D line.
that's true.
Like, yeah, I don't think they're going to be just these world beaters immediately like people think. Yeah, I think they're going to be really good, but I don't know. So
They
I don't
do
see
have
them
to
beating.
play at Michigan. They do have to play at
Yeah.
Michigan.
Now I don't think Michigan's going to be as good as they were this past few years.
No.
Right. But the
So I
big
think
house is tough. Big house is
it,
tough.
it, it's not really tough from the fact it's loud. I think it's tough because it's an unfamiliar environment. You've never played there before. As far as I know, I don't think Texas has ever played at Michigan. I think they played each other, but I don't think they've ever played at either stadium. But I'll give Texas that one. Who all do they have? Like, if you don't mind,
What's that? What's that?
can you read off their schedule, please? Or
Texas
just
is home against Colorado State, at
win
Michigan,
that,
home
win
against
that,
UTSA,
win that,
ULM,
win
Yeah.
that,
Mississippi State,
Yeah, they win that one.
win.
Oklahoma's neutral site.
It's probably a win.
Well, that's right. That's a rivalry game, and
Uh,
weird shit happens in that one. So I'm still gonna go Texas, but I think it's close.
Yeah, I think Texas
At
back. Yeah.
at Vandy, Florida,
Win that.
Arkansas on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Now I will say I
Kentucky.
would even though Arkansas is going to be horrible, that's a big rivalry game, and we've seen what happened a few years ago.
Yeah.
And
At Texas
obviously,
A&M.
and then at A&M to cap off the year.
Yeah.
Especially with what just happened with A&M's baseball coach going to Texas.
So that
I'll just say this: what's his name, Coach Schloss or whatever his name? It's some weird German name.
Schlegel or
Yeah.
Schloss, wherever his name is. If that guy ever shows his face around College Station or Bryan, Texas ever again, he better have a SWAT team escort.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Because it's
Hey,
like, you choose to leave us to go to Texas?
yeah. Y'all talk up Texas A&M real quick. I'm going to step aside real quick, and I'll be right back. But y'all talk it up real quick.
All right, so Southwest Conference member Texas A&M and the SEC.
Yeah. Now you see. Yeah.
Uh,
Yep. Yeah, and they'll be playing Texas this year. Yeah. This will be the first time since
in
2011.
2011.
So yeah.
Again with A&M, I don't know because again, Mike Elko's a good coach and what he did at Duke, and he's going to have talent at his disposal. It's just I don't know.
Yeah, he's got more talent at A&M than he does at Duke, but the schedule is harder. But
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know what A&M is going to be this year. I just don't know. Now I can admit that. If I say I don't know, I'll just say mean, they could be good, they could be bad. How does Elko's system, tend to the A&M players? I mean, that depends on a lot of things, and you can't expect him to be a world beater in year one.
No. Yeah, I think Texas 8-4 is probably going to go 8-4 again. But
Yeah, the Texas 8 and 4s, or as I've heard, A&M stands for Applebee's and McDonald's because that's where all their graduates work.
let's see, and screen. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see on my phone. So I guess they have them at 8.5. I think is what it looks like. So yeah, I guess I would go under and say 8-4. Yeah,
That
losing
makes
to
sense.
Auburn, Texas, LSU, and somebody. Get Notre Dame. Yeah, get Notre Dame. Yeah, that probably sounds about right. Yeah. And they do have Connor Wegman coming back, so as their quarterback. Of course, Max Johnson transferred to North Carolina, so. But I mean, I think that Connor Wegman was playing good before he got hurt, so.
Yeah, so we'll see about A&M.
The Bulldog JC said reports out of Kentucky are saying that Vandergrift still needs a lot of work to improve upon. Hmm. Well, I mean they all. They always say that, but of course, Vandergrift has never been a starter before, so. Yeah, JC says, I've heard some Arkansas fans saying that they want Arkansas to go back to the Southwestern Conference. Is there any validity to that? Well, they can't go back to the Southwest Conference because it doesn't exist anymore. So,
Well, actually, Vic, it's funny you mentioned that. I've been saying this. I could see it happening if Texas doesn't get their way. Because here's the thing: the fans, players, the boosters, they all want the same thing. It's just the problem is that these TV networks are, have too much control right now because that's the ones who are making all these decisions. Uh, I could see Texas trying to reform the Southwest Conference and try to get Arkansas in there and
in
Texas A&M.
Texas and Arkansas,
It's,
are they going to invite Rice to join too? I
I
mean,
maybe for just history's
yeah,
sake,
yeah.
but
Just Rice was in it. They had like Rice and Houston
Houston,
in the
Texas
Southwest.
Tech,
Tech,
uh, SMU, TCU, Baylor,
TCU, Baylor. Yeah.
and one to make it 10 teams. I'm telling y'all, put Memphis in there.
I'm back.
So
Well,
who commented that about reforming the Southwest
Yeah, that
Conference?
Bulldog JC. Yeah.
So like there's reports of them wanting to do that, or
Yeah. Yeah, that's what JC said. Yeah.
uh, I've heard some Arkansas fans saying that they want Arkansas to go back to the Southwest Conference. Is there any validity to that? Oh, I guess.
Yeah, that's why I said they can't go back because there is no Southwest Conference unless
Well, they would have to
they
reform
want.
it,
Yeah.
and it would have to be whenever they'd either have to buy out of the SEC or just wait on the contract to expire.
Yep. Well, yeah. So what was the over under for Vandy?
oh, hold on. Let me go back
Yeah.
to
The
it. I
what
got
like
these two
what
closest.
like is it what like 2.5? I mean, or 3.5? Or
Vandy is 2.5.
yeah, yeah.
They took the
Take the
over.
under.
Two two
Take,
and a
take
half.
the
Yeah. Take the under.
take
Take
the
the
under
under.
because the hell with
Well,
it.
they gave them Alcorn State,
Yeah. Yeah.
Georgia State on the road, and Ball State at home.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give them Alcorn State and Ball State, but I mean, I think they're
They also got to
up
play.
to Georgia
Yeah,
State.
they
Yeah,
also have to play Virginia Tech.
yeah, that's a loss. Yeah, I think that
Well,
Georgia State
here's
is a loss.
here's the thing. I'm not gonna just no. Listen, Vanderbilt. Listen, they're going 0-12 because the hell with those nerds. Okay.
Yeah. Uh, all
But
right. I
but
guess we'll
see,
look at. Oh, go ahead.
see Ballard. If you look at what Bulldog JC about where Arkansas fans is saying how they should go back to the Southwest Conference. See, that's my point. Everybody wants it back.
What do you mean everybody wants it back?
If Josh Pate is
Uh,
talking about bringing the Big Eight and Southwest Conference back,
they're
that
gonna bring
means there's a lot of people saying it.
now the Big Eight is the Big Eight is the Big 12 now. So
But they can reform it to the Big Eight.
no, the Big Eight is the Big 12.
But I'm saying it became the Big 12 because they added 4 Southwest Conference schools in '96.
That's right. It's the Big Eight in the
And
Southwest kind of merged. Yeah,
yeah, they kind of did a little bit of a merger, but
it kind
in
of
reality,
also kicked some teams out. But yeah,
yeah, it was Houston, Rice, SMU, and TCU got kind of the short end of the stick, and Arkansas was already in the SEC by that time.
yeah.
I don't know. You guys want to look at y'all familiar with blue chip like
Blue.
ratio?
So,
Yeah, you
well,
meant the
I'll ask y'all this, y'all that's watching, Ballard, to explain to Vic my model and how it's perfect, how it would work. But
what
I
mod?
explain to you, Ballard loved
Oh,
it.
I should have wrote it down. I'm trying to remember it, to be honest.
Okay,
But
so
uh,
so this is what I've been pitching for 2 years, and a lot of people like it. And I say a lot of people in places like it. I don't mean places like at truck stops. I mean decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
what I was proposing, I called it the 7 majors, 7 major conferences, and no conferences more than 12 teams. No 2 conferences are the same. Some are a little bigger than others just because of history and all that stuff. Like I'll start out with the SEC. So the SEC from north to south is Kentucky, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Florida State. That's your SEC.
Yeah, so it sounds like the original.
Well, you just don't have Tulane and Sewanee because Sewanee's like D2 now,
Yeah,
and you can only have 2 schools in state. And Tulane, they're too small now.
So what?
Maybe if maybe if they had the old Tulane Stadium
Okay.
from back in the day, maybe.
Yeah. So I mean,
But the new one,
it would be like the SEC before bef- before '92.
pretty much. And then the ACC from north to south would be Maryland, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Duke, North Carolina, NC State, Wake Forest, Appalachian State. Tell me you don't want to see that. Clemson, South Carolina, Miami. And then the Big East comes back. It's Boston College, Syracuse, UConn, Rutgers, Temple, Penn State, Pitt, West Virginia, Marshall, James Madison, Liberty, and East Carolina.
Really, what about Miami? You wouldn't put them
Miami's in
back.
the no. I kept them in the ACC because I don't want them having to. I'm trying to keep travel to a minimum, and it's geographically based.
Oh, okay.
And it's all teams that should be playing each other. And then the Big Ten is Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Purdue, Indiana, Louisville, Illinois, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota. And then the original Big Eight, which is Iowa State, Nebraska, Colorado, Kansas, Kansas State, Missouri, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. Then the Southwest Conference, which is Memphis, Arkansas, Texas Tech, SMU, TCU, Baylor, Texas, Texas A&M. For history's sake, I'll put Rice in there and Houston. And then the Pac-12, which is Washington, Washington State, Oregon, Oregon State, Stanford, Cal, USC, UCLA. Now, if you want to swap out UCLA for like Fresno State, I wouldn't be mad. No. Either them or San Diego State. Like, if you want to swap out UCLA for San Diego State, I wouldn't be mad about that. Arizona, Arizona State, BYU, Utah. And then what I suggested was you do an 18 playoff with those 7 conference champions, and then the G5 champion with the best record. And you do 1v8, 2v7 kind of deal, and the higher seeded team always has a home game. So, like, say Georgia wins the SEC as the #1 seed, and their second playoff game is against 6 seeded out of the Big Ten. Iowa has to go to Athens.
It wouldn't if wouldn't the #1 team be playing the #8 team?
Yes. So
So
that would
one
most likely be the G5 champion.
yeah, so one
So,
play.
let's say Georgia Southern in the Sun Belt went undefeated, and they're the only undefeated G5 champion. Georgia Southern would get in,
Mm-hmm.
and then the national. I told this to Josh Payne. The national championship game every season is played at the Rose Bowl. It's not the Rose Bowl game. The Rose Bowl game is separate, but it's played at the Rose Bowl.
Um. Okay. Why the Rose Bowl?
Because I just love the look of it,
Well,
and
why not
it just
just have it just have it move around like it always has?
well, so you're saying like moving around, kind of like the Super Bowl kind of thing, like
Yeah,
put it in
guess
different
what?
stadiums.
Yeah, guess what? They've
Okay,
always.
I mean, okay, that's fine. I mean, I prefer the Rose Bowl because of the history and the look and everything. But if you wanted to do that, I would not be that upset.
Yeah, and and then what about the semifinals? Where would those games be?
Like I said, besides the national championship game, all playoff games are at home stadiums.
Okay.
No. I think the semifinals need to stay neutral site. I mean, I know what we talked about earlier and everything, but the more I think about it, like, I don't know. I think it only makes it fair that it's neutral site, at least for the semifinals and the national title, so there's no favoritism in the
Yeah,
crowd
yeah, I'm
for
more
a team.
first with the first round of games being at home stadiums, but
Because if you make home stadiums be the site for the semifinals, you're gonna say, "My team made the semifinals." Well, we would have won had it not been for the crowd noise or something, like, I don't know, and you can make that case for every playoff game, but, like, I don't know. Anyway, so we've gone over 2 hours this morning, which is really good. That's the longest we've done for the wake up show so far. I
we
try to get it that
lost
long, but
we
yeah.
lost TriStar.
Yeah, we did. Um I got some stuff to take care of around the house, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the show, Vic. Is he not doing his midday show?
Well, yeah, he didn't do it on Monday. Yeah, I don't know about today. He did do the ACC show yesterday, so
Did he? I'll have to go back and watch it, but
yeah.
yeah, I got some stuff to take care of. Thanks for coming on, Vic. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Ballard.
All right, love you, buddy.
Okay, love you too.
All right, thanks to TriStar as well. We're gonna end the show. Today, episode 3 in the books. We talked win totals. Didn't really talk much about the blue chip champions, but that was kind of interesting. I thought a good read. It talked about 16 teams that could win the championship, and I think you know it took transfers and everything into account. Um, I see you back there, TriStar. We're actually going to end the show. But thanks for coming on, buddy. I appreciate it. Uh, Ohio State blue chip ratio 90%, Alabama 88, Georgia 80. Um, doesn't make too much sense to me that Georgia would be below Alabama at this moment. And it goes all the way down to Auburn with a 53% chance. But you got teams like Florida, Miami, Clemson, Notre Dame. And blue chip ratio is like the blue chip players and everything. It takes that into account. It takes into account portal, recruiting, all kinds of different factors. So maybe we'll look at it again closer, maybe some other time. But good episode today. Good morning, and I really appreciate TriStar and Vic for coming on. I love you guys. Jesus loves you. God bless. And my next show, actually, I guess we'll see what Friday looks like. I leave Saturday for the beach. So I'm not gonna do YouTube next week. I'm just not. I wanna spend time with family, so I'll take my computer and I'll watch you guys on YouTube, but I think as far as uploading and everything goes, we'll take a week off next week because 'cause I'll be on vacation. But it'll be fun. Looking forward to it. So, anyway, I love you guys. We'll see you next time.